It's Wednesday the 25th of February. From the MEN newsroom, this is Channel M's Lunchtime News and these are today's headlines. The Conservative Party leader David Cameron mourns the death of his disabled son. Also coming up, 12 arrests after early morning drugs raids in Stockport.
These are long-term operations. It involves a huge effort in terms of evidence gathering, but these sorts of operations show that we will follow it up and that we're trying to hit the drug market and the drug dealers really at all stages.
And a teenager who's hitting the right note after a difficult start in life.
I started having singing lessons at the age of 6 because my parents wanted to improve my lung capacity because they thought it was weak, which it was. When I was born, my lungs were particularly weak.
Good afternoon. First this lunchtime, David Cameron's eldest son, who was disabled, has died. He was 6 years old. Gordon Brown has expressed his sympathy to the Tory party leader, saying he and his wife Sarah are saddened by the news. Prime Minister's Question Time, which the opposition leader had been due to attend, has been cancelled, and a ceremony to reveal a statue of Margaret Thatcher at 10 Downing Street has also been postponed.
Ivan Cameron suffered from cerebral palsy and severe epilepsy. He became ill overnight and was taken to St Mary's Hospital in London, where he died early this morning. A Conservative Party statement said David and his wife Samantha would ask that their privacy is respected at this terribly difficult time. Ivan was the Camerons' first child. He suffered his first seizure within weeks of being born and was in and out of hospital all his life. Gordon Brown led tributes, saying the thoughts and prayers of the whole country are with the Cameron family. The Prime Minister said the death of a child is a loss no parent should have to bear. On learning of his son's illness, Mr Cameron has said in the past, it hits you like a freight train because all the expectations you have for your child change immediately. The couple have 2 other children, Nancy, aged 5, and 3-year-old Arthur. Mr Cameron had been an MP for less than a year when Ivan was born in April 2002.
12 suspected drug dealers are being questioned after a series of dawn raids here in Greater Manchester. They were arrested at several homes which were targeted in the early hours. Channel M's Ben Bland was with the specialist unit when it moved in.
An unexpected wake-up call for one of a dozen suspected drug dealers in Stockport this morning. More than 150 police officers carried out coordinated raids just before dawn at 14 homes. It comes after detectives spent months gathering intelligence which led them to the suspects. In total, 11 men and 1 woman have been arrested on suspicion of conspiracy to supply Class A drugs, including 1 man at this flat.
The suspect has now been taken into custody and officers from the Tactical Aid Unit are inside the flat carrying out a thorough search for any evidence that could be used in a prosecution.
I think the officers have done an extremely professional job. We've secured a number of important offenders. We've got them secure in custody now, and this morning and later today we'll be going through an interview process, and very soon they'll be facing the courts.
And today's operation is not just about kicking doors in. It's also about a message of reassurance and confidence.
Earlier in the morning, the officers involved in the raids were briefed on Operation Navajo. The Chief Constable of Greater Manchester Police was there and accompanied the Tactical Aid Unit to one of the addresses.
Sometimes these are long-term operations. It involves a huge effort in terms of evidence gathering, but these sorts of operations show that we will follow it up and that we're trying to hit the drug market and the drug dealers really at all stages. We're picking up information from local people, but this sort of operation is only part of an overall strategy where we're hitting dealers, hitting addicts, but at the same time also at the other end of the game dealing with the organised crime groups that we know are feeding the market and are trying to import drugs into the country.
The information that led to these raids came from people in the community. Greater Manchester Police hoping these arrests will both deter drug dealers and reassure the public. Ben Bland, Channel M News.
A plane has crashed while trying to land at Amsterdam's Schiphol airport. Dutch television's reporting that 5 people on board the Turkish Airlines flight have been killed and at least 20 more are injured. The Boeing 737 from Istanbul came down short of the runway near a motorway and broke up with 135 people on board. Witnesses have described seeing survivors walking away from the wreckage with luggage scattered nearby. A man from Bolton who stabbed his wife 82 times during a jealous rage is starting a life sentence for murder. 29-year-old Brian Taylor from Chorley Old Road admitted killing Katie Boardman from Farnworth in front of 2 of their 4 children last October because she'd been on a night out with friends. He then took the 2- and 3-year-olds, whose clothes had some of her blood on them, to his mother's house, where he admitted what he'd done. A year before that, the family had appeared in a reunion on the Jeremy Kyle show. A court's been told how a taxi driver stabbed his wife to death just days after abusing her. Manchester Crown Courts heard how mum of 3 Sabina Akhtar was murdered by Malik Manan just 5 days after police banned him from seeing her. The 26-year-old was found dead at her home in Levenshulme last September. He denies the charges. A new technique that could help save the lives of cancer patients has been developed at the Christie. It's already giving new hope to sufferers. Retired ambulanceman Mel Jones is living proof of that. Kevin Duffy's been to meet him.
Mel Jones's ponytail is his pride and joy. But conventional treatment for cancer would have caused his hair to fall out. However, Mel's cancer, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, was treated using a pioneering technique called radioimmunotherapy. As a result, Mel kept his hair on, and most importantly, the cancer treatment was successful.
I started the treatment in late June and finished my treatment in October. And the week before Christmas 2007, he gave me a Christmas present that it was clear.
Mel was treated at the Christie in South Manchester, where doctors described the new technique as being a kind of magic bullet.
The advantage of this sort of approach is it's much more specific.
In simple terms, a cancer-killing radioactive compound is attached to a special molecule which is injected into the body, and this goes directly, but only, to where the cancer is.
Unlike chemotherapy, which goes throughout the body and not only will kill the cancer cells, but also the normal cells like the gut and the hair, which is the reason why we see side effects with chemotherapy, with some patients losing their hair or getting sickness.
If I'd have had the conventional treatment, I would have lost my hair, and I didn't do. And I'd got a 10-year ponytail, which I didn't want to lose.
Mel Jones was very much a guinea pig in a clinical trial. What scientists at the Christie have now got to do is to develop this new technique in the hope of bringing it into general use. Kevin Duffy for Channel M News.
A Labour peer has been given a 12-week jail sentence over a car crash in which a man from Lee died. Lord Ahmed admitted sending and receiving text messages while driving in the dark on the M1 in South Yorkshire on Christmas Day 2007. The 51-year-old's Jaguar hit an Audi which had stopped in the fast lane, killing the driver Martin Gombar, who was originally from Slovakia. Jack Straw is being accused of a cover-up after stopping papers being released that detail cabinet talks about the decision to invade Iraq. He's used special powers under Freedom of Information laws to keep minutes of 2 meetings in 2003 secret. In them, the controversial issue of whether the invasion was legal was being discussed. A jury has been told that Lord Maurice Taylor, also known as Lord Windsor, tricked an art dealer into buying a fake L.S. Lowry painting for £330,000. The painting, called The Mill Street Scenes, a well-known forgery. The 60-year-old, who lives in a mansion near Congleton in Cheshire, told several dealers he bought the painting in the early 1970s. He denies 6 counts of fraud and 1 of forging an invoice to cover his tracks. Researchers say too many parents don't report possible cases of child neglect. A survey's found a quarter have been worried for a child's welfare before, but well over a third of them haven't done anything about it. One of the main reasons why is in case it causes them trouble. We've been asking shoppers in Manchester how comfortable they'd be about stepping in.
Family or anything, you don't want to intrude, do you, sir?
So you wouldn't report it?
Unless it was like child protection, and obviously if they had injuries on the child, then obviously you would report it then. But if you just think they're not, they're a bit unwashed and stuff, then probably not, no.
Do you think people often turn a blind eye?
Yeah, that's true, yeah. Because people would think that it's none of their business.
You think it's poppycock?
I think it's poppycock, yes.
Why?
I'd like to know where they got their information from. This is a result of some survey, presumably, asking people, are you worried? And people will just say yes. I mean, in theory they're worried. In practice, ask them to produce chapter and verse of names and addresses and they would fade away, I suspect.
In my mind, if I thought that child was being neglected, I would definitely, of course I would, I'd report them.
How bad would it have to get?
When it looked like there was physical damage or neglect, the child wasn't being looked after properly.
Well, the charity Action for Children is the organisation behind this report, and our reporter Nina Warhurst has been speaking to Carol Idden from their North West office.
Well, the Action for Children study, the results of which were published today, was commissioned to look at the difficulties in identifying and therefore dealing with issues of child neglect. Now, Carol, sometimes people won't know exactly what child neglect is. How would you define it?
Child neglect is a range of different things, but it's about really the persistent failure of a parent to meet the needs of a child. So that could include not being fed, not having their health needs met, not being clean and being tidy and those sorts of things. So it is a range of different things that, and certainly the study suggests that people are confused about what is and isn't neglect.
Well, certainly, because 1 in 3 of people who suspect it's happening around them aren't reporting it. Why is that?
I think there's 3 reasons. I think the confusion about whether what they're seeing is neglect or not is one of them. The second is people are frightened, often of particularly getting repercussions as a consequence of maybe having got it wrong and reported it. And I think, thirdly, that some people actually don't think it's their business, so they don't want to interfere, and that then results in them not reporting things that they're seeing.
What would you say to people who are reluctant to interfere? What could the long-term implications of their behaviour be?
Well, the worst case scenario is a child could die, and there have been cases where that has been the situation. But children who are neglected long-term will suffer all sorts of things into adulthood, and that will lead to them having all sorts, experiencing problems like mental health. They may get involved in drugs, they may get involved in other activities that make them much more socially excluded. They certainly won't perform in school. And that means that as they move into adulthood, they are likely to continue to become excluded and may actually neglect their own children in the future.
Thank you, Carol. Today's report is part of a larger investigation along with Salford University that will go on for 4 years and look at the best ways authorities can intervene when children are being neglected. Back to you.
Thanks, Nina. Time now for the day's sporting headlines, and with worrying news for one of our League One clubs, here's Sam Goodman.
Thank you, James. Well, yes, the big news this lunchtime lies with the Stockport County manager, Jim Gannon, and the uncertainty over his future with the club. Gannon has emerged as the favourite to take over at managerless Brighton after Mickey Adams was sacked at the weekend. County lost 1-0 to Colchester last night, and it's understood that Gannon has remained down south to talk to the South Coast club. He's been at Edgeley Park for 3 years, and County chairman Martin Reid hopes he'll remain at the club despite their financial problems. Well, on to last night's Champions Leagues, and it ended goalless between Manchester United and Inter Milan, setting up an intriguing second leg here in Manchester in a fortnight's time. Well, Sir Alex Ferguson, though, isn't fazed by the fact they failed to score at the San Siro.
Well, what I think you're seeing in the team is there is a maturity. Yeah, there's always a threat we could lose a goal at home. That's always a threat when you don't score yourself away from home, and that's the great beauty of European football. But we didn't score in Barcelona either, and we're playing a really fantastic Barcelona team at Old Trafford. What we did was our focus and concentration in that particular match was absolutely outstanding, and that's what we'll need to be in the return game at Old Trafford. Concentration, focus, and hopefully we're all right with that.
Well, the United striker Wayne Rooney, who came on as a late substitute last night, expects a difficult match in the second leg at Old Trafford.
I don't know, I was watching the game. He said teams like Inter probably better away from home, so they can sit there and defend and then try and catch you on the break. So it's I'm sure it'll be a difficult game for us.
It's 0-0, a bit of a sort of dangerous scoreline when they're now the away team.
Yeah, I think it always is. If they get one goal, then it's going to be a really difficult night for us at Old Trafford. But we have to make sure we defend well and take our chances when we get them.
Well, Rooney only played about 10 minutes in last night's clash, and the decision to leave him on the bench was a surprise for Inter manager Jose Mourinho.
I was surprised, yes. I was surprised because he's a fantastic player, but he was injured for a few weeks. Maybe the boss decided to give him a rest. I understood that, and I could guess that Park would be playing this game to defend the Maicon, to defend the left wing. I could understand Cristiano on the right because he knew it. The kid was playing and probably thought he could scare the kid. And after was, you know, between Giggs and Rooney, so it was not a big surprise. And they have so many top players, not a problem for them.
Well, in the other fixtures from last night, promotion hopes were dented for two of our sides. As mentioned earlier, Stockport lost 1-0 to Colchester. Oldham lost 2-0 at home to Bristol Rovers, top scorer Lee Hughes missing a penalty. And the only fixture in League Two saw Rochdale defeat Darlington 2-1 to keep their promotion hopes alive. Adam Lafondra and Adam Rundle on the score sheet. Well, there's another game in League Two tonight as Macclesfield take on Port Vale. The early team news we have is that James Jennings is out and Sean Hesse is doubtful. Well, finally, it's been confirmed that bookmakers have suspended betting on Liverpool manager Rafa Benitez and leaving the club. Well, that's all the sport from me for now. Join me at 5 o'clock. I'll have some big news in rugby union with Sale Sharks.
Sam, thank you very much for the update. Plenty more still to come on the Lunchtime News. We'll be meeting the teenager who's been singing for survival from an early age and the photographer who's been capturing some of Levenshulme's best beauty spots.
Rather than like big panoramic shots or kind of the context, I'll just single out something that looks a bit odd or that's a little bit different. Maybe the crocuses, for example, when they came up through the snow. Maybe I kind of look at things geometrically, you know, like the lines of the fence and the shape of the trees against the sky and things.
This is Wednesday's Lunchtime News. We've got more of the day's top stories on the way. And don't forget as well to go online at channelm.co.uk. There you'll find this programme to watch again and all our other reports. On there right now, the taxi drivers in Stockport who are worried about cabs taking to the streets, more of them, and a row over trees literally facing the axe in Salford. That's at channelm.co.uk. Let's return to our top story now, and David Cameron's eldest son, who was disabled, has died. He was 6 years old. Gordon Brown has expressed his sympathy to the Tory party leader, saying he and his wife Sarah are saddened by the news. Prime Minister's Question Time, which the opposition leader had been due to attend, has been cancelled, and a ceremony to reveal a statue of Margaret Thatcher at 10 Downing Street has also been postponed. Police are questioning 12 suspected drug dealers this lunchtime. They were arrested when police raided several houses here in Greater Manchester in the early hours. This is Chief Constable Peter Fahey.
Sometimes these are long-term operations. It involves a huge effort in terms of evidence gathering, but these sorts of operations show that we will follow it up and that we're trying to hit the drug market and the drug dealers really at all stages. We're picking up information from local people, but this sort of operation is only part of an overall strategy where we're hitting dealers, hitting addicts, but at the same time also at the other end of the game dealing with the organised crime groups that we know are feeding the market and are trying to import drugs into the country.
The Wigan athletic footballer Marlon Kings appeared in court to face charges of attacking a woman in a London nightclub. Kings alleged to have sexually assaulted and punched the 20-year-old woman. He was on loan at Hull City at the time of the alleged incident, and the nightclub has since closed. The case was adjourned until April. An Australian mum who moved to Levenshulme 10 years ago says she's pleased with what a good reaction her daily photo blog of the area has been getting. Sue Ann Harding set up a website showcasing a new photo from near her home each day. Sue Ann Harding's been uploading a different picture of Levenshulme to her website every day since the start of the year. She's originally from Melbourne and hit on the idea to help her friends back home see where she's living now.
I've seen other blogs, you know, city day blogs like of Moscow and all these great places, and I thought, oh, maybe I could do just Levenshulme, not Manchester, but just Levenshulme.
Now, if you're looking for famous or picturesque buildings close to Levenshulme, they don't come much better than this one, the very impressive Victorian bathhouse. And maybe not quite so pretty, but still a landmark nonetheless, this McVitie's factory. But these aren't the sort of things that Sue Ann's been taking pictures of.
Rather than like big panoramic shots or kind of the context, I'll just single out something that looks a bit odd or that's a little bit different. Maybe the crocuses, for example, when they came up through the snow. Maybe I kind of look at things geometrically, you know, like the lines of the fence and the shape of the trees against the sky and things like that.
Yeah, we planted this.
It's doing pretty well.
If I put them back on, it looks like an oak tree.
It is an oak tree, isn't it? You see by the shape of the leaf.
Maybe one day I might collect all these leaves and make an oak tree picture.
That would be a really good idea. That would be nice. I've had, actually, people in America as well saying, I thought you lived in Manchester. I thought it was like a city. Where's all this beautiful park and everything? So they were quite surprised at what they saw. It wasn't really what they expected.
And what do you think to lots of people being able to look at your mum's pictures on the internet?
Well, sometimes I do, but it's a bit tricky and a bit nice. But sometimes I want to do some different things, but even I want to stay on the internet.
And if you'd like to see more of Sue-Ann's pictures, log on to levenshume.dailyphotograph.blogspot.com. Next, teenager Greg Link struggled to survive after being born 15 weeks premature, weighing less than 2 pounds. As he got older, his parents hoped singing lessons would help to strengthen his underdeveloped lungs, and now, many years later, it certainly seems to have done the trick.
Stars in your multitudes, scarce to be counted, filling the darkness.
I got a letter in the post a couple of weeks after the audition, opened it up, and I was really excited. I was jumping around the kitchen, if I remember rightly. I started having singing lessons at the age of 6 because my parents wanted to improve my lung capacity because I thought it was weak, which it was. When I was born, my lungs were particularly weak for a baby of my size. So to improve that, I started singing lessons, and it all went from there, really. Juggling school and music is occasionally challenging, but I've learned to work with it.
Well, I've known Greg for a very long time now, since he was in the junior school, and even at that stage he had a really outstanding treble voice. And then when he came up to the senior school and he auditioned for the choir, he was straight away a member of that, and during the last 6 or 7 years he's sung with us on countless concerts and cathedral visits and foreign tours, so he's been an absolute supporting backbone of the choir all that time.
Let's take a look at the weather now. Michelle Eagleton is telling us what to expect.
Well, it has been a chilly morning. We've seen highs of between 8 and 9 degrees, and there's been a lot of a breeze as well just creeping through, so it has meant that you've had to put on possibly a few extra layers today just in case if you are heading out and about. This afternoon, slightly different picture. I know most of the morning was mainly dry and with some heavy cloud as well. That cloud has lifted now, but later on this afternoon you are going to see some heavy downpours. Don't worry about that too much because it isn't all doom and gloom for you. They're probably going to kick in those showers, say about 3 o'clock this afternoon, and they will be very brief because by 6 o'clock they should start to ease off, and we'll see really nice bright spell over to this evening, and it's going to be really nice night and staying mainly dry, but make the most of it because the next few days are looking a bit of a washout. Thursday and Friday are going to be very rainy indeed, but by the weekend you will see a different picture indeed. A lot more sun than those showers.
You're watching Channel M's Lunchtime News. These are our top stories. Tory party leader David Cameron and his wife Sarah are mourning the death of their 6-year-old disabled son Ivan. He suffered from cerebral palsy and severe epilepsy and was taken to hospital last night, then died in the early hours of the morning. 12 suspected drug dealers have been arrested here in Greater Manchester after officers raided several homes in the early hours. Those who've been picked up are now being questioned. More on all those stories with Andy Crane in our early evening news from 5 o'clock tonight. But for now, from me and the rest of the Lunchtime team, have a good afternoon. Bye-bye for now.